Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am ManyNinjas, and welcome to the next episode of Retro Ninja Gaming, where, in this case, pardon the absolute butchering of the name, we are going to be playing Downtown Special Kunio-Kun no Jirageki Dayo Zen'in Shugo. Otherwise, in something I can normally pronounce, Downtown Special, it's Kunio-Kun's period piece, Assemble Everyone. Now, in terms of Kunio-Kun-based games, most people will probably know something along the lines of either River City Ransom, which is the most popular one that is known there, or Crash and the Boys for the sports title. However, this particular title only really released in '91 over on the Famicom system, and was pretty much, based on the subject matter, kind of a Japanese-only deal, as it'll become rather clear. This game is actually a sequel to the original, or the third Kunio-Kun game, which we know on our end as River City Ransom, and thus actually has a few improvements that would be later showing up in further ports of River City Ransom we see on this end. Namely, you actually get a partner in order to help you out through the course of this game, and you'll also be able to recruit additional helpers and allies as the game progresses depending on what you do, or don't do in some cases. You'll also be able to gather up a series of different special attacks, which you can use on Kuno, or actually, depending on if you purchase the extras, can actually add to your partner as well as a series of stat-building items and such that can be built up in order to boost your character or your partner along the way. However, this game does one thing a little differently compared to River City Ransom, being how you boost your stats this whole time. Instead of being able to either eat food items or buy books in order to pretty much pay your way in order to become completely powerful, you have to kind of do it the old-fashioned way, being that every 10 enemies or so that you beat up, you'll gain a level up of some sort, which will increase your stats based on a certain percentage that can actually be adjusted around with the pause menu for both you and your partner. Anyway, we're going to be playing on Mode 1, which basically means while I can accidentally hit my enemy or hit my partner with random items, I can't directly beat him up. And let's begin with Kuno and Sue as we begin pursuing the first set of gang members. On the default gameplay, Kuno really starts with only one series of tech, which is a mock kick in this case. And I'm going to actually be adjusting his growth rate right now in order to make it so I'll be able to boost certain stats sooner rather than later. I believe I'm actually going to be adding more to the kick just because we already have the mock kick to start with here. And it's going to be basically something I'm going to rely on for the first little bit in order to get along the way. Another thing is I'm also going to be looking in order to find some additional techniques in order to use, because the mock kick, with especially how little damage at this point, while it will help at the start point, it won't get you very far, to be honest here. And Sue's technique is the Big Bang, which really only works on a stun state and doesn't actually do any damage. So I'm also going to want to start to beat up some people in order to get some additional partners. Fortunately, the map, as you kind of saw earlier, is a bit of a mess, and traversing it is actually even more complex than it looks, to be honest. But I've gone through this particular route well enough that I knew about this general shortcut to get to the next town and the first gang. For anyone looking for a direct comparison, yes, this light blue gang is the equivalent to the first gang that you'll be running across in River City Ransom, aka they're going to be the easiest ones to get through, and probably serve as the best way in order to beat up your requisite number of gang members and start building up your stats. As you're beating up all your sort of enemies here, be sure in order to pick up all the coins that they end up dropping, because although money isn't as much of a problem on this particular title, as I'm going to be explaining why a little bit later, you still need some basic starting funds in order to kind of get the ball rolling. Another thing worth doing on the early parts of the particular gameplay for this game is you want to experiment a bit by trying some extra things, like I said, just using the mock kick in order to kind of cheese your way through. Also doing a lot of punching, or in particular grabbing a nice weapon and just wailing on enemies for a while if you can help it, especially if you run into a lot of this light blue gang, or teal, whatever you want to say it is, and beat them up for a while. You can actually earn certain techniques just by constant usage. In the case of if you use a lot of weapons, you can learn the mock weapon that way. Fortunately, this isn't River City Ransom X, so I don't have to worry about any sort of reputation, so yeah, you can kind of just run up and punch the crap out of people, even while they're in mid-sentence. Fortunately, as the first gang leader you run into, Ginbai is really not that hard to get across. Off the top of my head, I believe he's basically the equivalent of Moose in the North American title. Fortunately, the point 2 is actually still pretty useful. It won't be until maybe the second or third gang where he kind of starts to wear things out if you aren't leveling up properly. And we have a little cash, so unfortunately, speaking of mock weapon, there it is. It's a lot easier if you just kind of attack people with a weapon the whole time to earn it for free rather than paying out the cash, especially when you have none to work with. And while I'm beginning to look around and figure out where my next step is, just to kind of give you an idea how it works, the problem is, with navigating the general map here, it's not very straightforward. Namely, there are certain areas or certain regions where, depending on exactly what part you exit by, it'll take you to another area entirely. Such as there's an area where it's mostly kind of a field, kind of a muddy field for lack of a better term. Okay, next boss already. I already forgot he was that close by. Yono here will actually get something from him later, but as he's actually really kind of beating me up, he's actually a pretty good description of how this difficulty actually jumps pretty quickly depending on where you happen to end up at any point. I would have really preferred to wait another gang member or two before I tried to come up with him, but we're already here, so let's use the AI's general confusion due to having 2 levels of opponents and just punch him for a while. And avoid getting hit by my own partner's projectiles, because that would take away a stupid amount of health. Alright. Anywho, while I'm continuing to kind of wail on Yono here a bit, as I was saying, for that particular muddy field there, if I exit by the waterway, it'll take me to one part of the map, where if I actually leave by the proper kind of bridge area, it'll take me to a completely different section entirely. So that actually happens on quite a few different areas throughout the game, so you really have to keep an eye on exactly where you're exiting. If you happen to have it handy, you want to keep a tab open on something like Game FAQs, not so much to read exactly where to find things, or how to get through the game, because it's somewhat straightforward. It's mostly just keep a tab open for the map, just to figure out how the hell you get anywhere until you receive a certain item, which I'm going to be aiming to get pretty soon if I can help it. The trick behind that item, along with some other interesting items, is that you actually have to have access and find some hidden shops just like this one in order to actually purchase the item, and of course you have to have a bit more cash than what I have right now in order to pull it off. Now in this case, this other route, or this next part of the same region, actually has an extra hidden item shop of its own, which belongs on the top of this hill here, which I keep getting the angle in which I have to hop on in order to get there. Honestly, I was kind of just toying around here at this point. I know if you go on that one little dark area there, you can actually just walk up and it'll teleport you automatically to the top of that thing, but I don't have any money to use any there anyway, so let's just keep on moving for now. Speaking of which, I hate this region. Let's get as far away from this region as we can. Stop. No, Kuno, don't run into a wall right now. Get back up. Okay, let's try the other side. Oh yeah, I forgot that you hit down on the screen, it'll take you to the other part of that particular region. However, there's no business up here, so let's just get out of here. And back where we started. Okay, once more with feeling, let's get out of this region. There we go, that's what I meant to do the first time. Now we're in town. Let's take a look. Anything in the tech shop I can afford right now. Okay, those aren't actually techs, those are just equipment items. Oh, just to give you an idea how the equipment works here. Each character has 16 different slots that they can work with. You can buy the various items within the shops and actually use them or equip them in your item section, but the problem is for every item you have equipped, it stays within there. It isn't automatically consumed, it just stays and occupies a space in your item spot. And once you fill it up, you can't use anything else, you can't buy anything else to fill it there. Realistically, if you're playing this game normally, you are going to want to get a few items to just kind of help you along the way until you get a chance in order to boost your stats up that you won't actually need those items anymore. Then you can get rid of them and fit into anything else you happen to need, such as kind of elixirs to boost your vitality, certain food items you can purchase and keep for a while, etc, etc. Alright, for this particular gameplay, our next stop is any town with a gambling house. Fortunately, we happen to have one right here. Now, the reason why the gambling house is, realistically, the game kind of works there. You're just kind of playing a dice game, and you have to bet on whether it's going to land on an odd number or an even number. And the way it works is you can either bet kind of a preset number, like 400 or 1,000 there, or what we're going to use and abuse here is the ability to either bet half or all of your money at once here. As long as you kind of keep careful betting here and just don't completely blow it all there, you can actually use it in order to build up a fairly large sum. So alright, just quick pause. Back here. Okay, where were we? Looking for the gambling house. Is it? No, this was another tech house. Must be the one next door. Realistically, the importance of the gambling house is actually paramount to getting certain items, because otherwise you'll spend an eternity. There we go. You'll spend an eternity trying to get all the money you need in order to buy certain items here, and be beating up gangs for ages here. And after a brief pause, we'll be right back. Alright, that's a brief pause. As I say, things went well. Now we have enough money in order to easily do anything we want willy-nilly. Even if you happen to get beat up at some point, we have more than enough money to do whatever the hell we want. First of all, let's get the end attack there. And actually, okay, it's automatically used. There are certain items or certain techniques you can actually store in your item list in order to actually pass along to your partner, but that's not one of them. Realistically, now that we have all the money in the universe, our next stop after just kind of keen to see if there was anything else there. I think there's another hidden shop somewhere in this general area, but I don't recall where off the top of my head. But as soon as we finished checking that up with, that's just another one. Okay, this is another tech house, I think. Okay, tornado. Basically, a hurricane kick. Very useful. This one we can store in the items, thankfully enough, if I wanted to give it to a partner. 2 is not my ideal partner, though, so I'm going to wait till I have someone a little more useful to help along. I have an idea of some of the gangs we need to find later, but realistically, if I can remember how to get there, I don't want to find the gang's nest, but I want to find one particular secret house of interest that'll actually be selling some extra useful items, including one that will really help with the stat boosting as it goes along. Okay, that didn't work out fine. Let's go for the next gang then. Not exactly the area I would have preferred to fight them in, just because there's just so many exits to this particular area, including some that you can hit by accident, just by going up and down to the wrong spot of the screen. Thankfully, though, if you happen to enter a building, though, it won't count as an exit and it'll let you pick up your gang fight where you left off. But this particular gang, this kind of light yellow gang, well, there's your Big Bang attack. Well, Big Bang, in case you're wondering what we're doing. It's basically a glorified fun, let's be honest here, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it is. Oh, I'm sorry, where was I again? In this case, this light yellow gang, or tan gang, is the equivalent to the Benny and Clyde gang in River City Random. Wait, that's actually a misnomer there, because Benny and Clyde didn't actually have a gang with the River City Ransom title, where in this case they have one that during their limited appearances here pop up with them all the time. Also, on the unfortunate side, although he's been a bit of a help during this time, Sue's initial stats are actually pretty bad, and from the looks of his health there's vitality. He doesn't have much more left to him, so I'm going to have to try to pick up some slack here. Although, at least as kind of a silver lining, I'm pretty sure by beating Yono earlier in the title, I've earned the what I needed to do in order to unlock an extra helper that can pop up in case Sue does get knocked out over the course of this fight. But let's see what happens. Also, on a similarly related, I should mention, if you're switching... Oh, no, Sue, don't carry me out of the arena yet. That would actually cancel the fight by making it count as an exit there. Alright, well, as I was about to say before that almost happened, that became a thing. The problem with switching allies at the one sort of room or a sort of place in your original town that you could do it at is that their health won't automatically regenerate. So you're gonna need to either give them an item or give them some items that will build up their stamina and vitality again in order to get them back up and running, or let them die out and come to a new screen where they'll basically come back with full vitality and health. Although you kind of want to prevent them from dying if you can help it. I know there's no kind of respect point or something like that, like it is on RZRX, but it's just generally more helpful to have them alive rather than dead in case something does come up. Fortunately, this is still pretty early game, so Ichi and Roku, aside from the fact that you have to fight two of them, they don't have anything that's too devastating at this point. Although, since I changed my growth to not include too much in terms of defense, I'm kind of playing it a little more risky here. If I do get beat up, I'll be kind of screwed, but generally you can avoid getting hit most of the time, let's be honest. Especially if you happen to have some of the right specials to go along with you. Alright, now with Ichiroku down, let's see if well, never mind, I do have enough money there. Helicopter is pretty useful. That's actually special used for if you're running and then do a jump attack. I think the equivalent name of, if I'm thinking of the right one, is Acro Circus, off the top of my head. Much like the tornado technique, it's one that you can actually keep in your inventory and thus pass along to another character in order to add it to their moveset. But right now, goal number one is to maybe take out some more of the Teal Gang members just to build a Spencer set, and this is not what I wanted to do here. Generally, I kind of want to avoid too many regular gang meetings with new or unique gangs, just so I could get to the secret house that is hidden in a waterfall area and get a few items that will make the rest of the progression of this game much easier, or at least allow me to have a lot more fun along the way. Well, we're already here, so let's take on this pink gang. I can't remember what the RCR equivalent is off the top of my head, but we'll figure it out pretty quickly as soon as we see what the boss is up to. Sue, if you could stop hitting me with throwing objects, that'd be great. If I had known there was a gang hanging on this particular section, I would have at least gone to an inn first, but hopefully the vitality will hold out. And hopefully the boss in this section isn't anyone too bad. I can't recall, I think there's one or two different possibilities you can still reach at this point. Now to think about it, for this particular section, we're back in Suraga, I believe. Pardon the pronunciation, I don't know what it is to be honest. But this is actually kind of a troublesome room to have an AI partner in, although not one of the worst. The reason why it's troublesome is because there is a wall, and depending on where your enemies spawn in this particular area, your AI partner, or even the AI opponents, depending on where they are, aren't particularly intelligent, so they'll end up running into that wall down there, taking a few hit points of damage each time. And I've lost count on some earlier runs I've done just for fun, how many times my partner has killed themselves in this incredibly stupid way. And while my partner pummels me with weapons in a very crappy attempt to help me, I can at least be thankful that, on the bright side, as long as you don't get knocked down, you don't lose any vitality. As long as you keep on your feet, you can deal with the fact you're basically dealing with zero stamina for pretty much an infinite period of time. This would also explain, if you happen to have one of your allies die off and they get replaced by someone else, how you can end up recruiting them back at the ally selection area, and they end up coming back with no health and no vitality at all. Another thing, but I haven't really addressed it at this point, but yes, you probably notice when there's 4 different characters at once, yes, there is slowdown going on, and there was quite a bit of flickering here. Okay, if I'm thinking correctly, not the boss I would want to face here. I believe his RCR equivalent would be found guarding the warehouse off the top of my head. But at least, although he doesn't have much health left, Sue is still around for a bit of help. And his ground punch is actually... Oh, his ground punch is actually really decent there. I forgot how well he could still do it on certain boss fights like this. And in this case, beating up Gonza actually gives you the chance to recruit him as an available helper. Okay. One of the downtimes of this title, well, buying food will help build up your stamina there. You can't buy, at least most shops, you can't buy anything that can be kept in your item box in order to help your partner as well. And food in this case doesn't give you any kind of stat boost like they did in RCR. Alright, moving onward. At this point, actually let me see, I think I can get something interesting here. Okay, any interesting text? Okay, Mach Fist, Mach Kick, and the Screw Attack. Oh, wait, no, my mistake. When I was thinking earlier about the helicopter being the basically the equivalent of an acro circus, it might have actually been the Screw Attack I meant. So, in this case, let's see, I got enemies at all sides. Who do I want to fight first? One of the tricky parts about the mini-map is, in this section alone, there are actually 4 different sections, including the town. In this case, screw the fight, we'll skip it for any the gangs for now here. Hopefully this is the exit. Okay, never mind, speaking of gang fights, that didn't take long there. Oh, and with Sue down, now we have Ricky coming in, and that's the helper. I believe by beating Yono, it gives you the option to have Ricky come in as an automatic helper once the character dies. And crap. Okay, we're going to try exiting entering the screen there. That particular room has the secret shop that I'm looking for, but the problem is it randomly opens and closes. There's one more secret shop in this area. Let's see if there's anything interesting there, and hopefully by the time I come out of there, the waterfall will have mysteriously dried up and allow me to do something interesting. No, there's only equipment here. While the jump does let you have kind of a elevated jump, or kind of a moon jump for lack of a better term here, it's not really useful. I don't want to deal with too much equipment this time around if I can help it. And I guess we need to kill some time by beating up some more gangs before the door will open and let me do what I need to do there, pick up the items that are necessary. I can't quite remember who this light green gang belongs to off the top of my head, but thankfully the ally here is Ricky, and Ricky's stats are noticeable jump over what Sue had as the starter helper, and I'm actually probably going to keep Ricky as the default helper for most of this particular playthrough. And with some of the fun I'll be doing at the secret house, I'll also apply to him in order to keep him as a pretty useful helper as this particular thing goes on. One thing I really hate about this particular area, or this whole kind of region here, is I'm not sure if you noticed, but general walking speeds have slowed down to a crawl. It's because the red ground here is kind of considered red dirt, or maybe a muddy field even. So traction is actually increased here, while if this were the snowy region, traction would be decreased, meaning I'd be slipping and sliding all over the place. You can actually get some one particular special item that'll make it so you can walk around at a normal pace, but once again, I don't want to rely too much on the items there, and I can't remember which item shop happens to have that particular set of boots in the first place. So no dice right now. Now that I think about it, off the top of my head, the light green gang here is, I think, one that's going to be a little reoccurring off the top of my head, but I don't remember why. I'm not sure if there is a normal equivalent with RCR that I should be thinking of right now. It's kind of slipping my mind. In this case, let's use the rock. Hopefully I can build up a weapon with this, because it actually, the rock itself is kind of a larger weapon. It does a lot of damage, a lot more than I'd be doing with any of my regular punches and kicks at the moment. So let's use it while we got it. Alright, Ricky stopped, which means... now I remember. Okay, this is the first of a handful of fights with characters related to the big boss, which you will be a while before you actually meet that boss in question, the big boss. And you've got to beat up this guy and one more, at least one more time in order to eventually kind of continue the story along the way. And I think you actually can recruit Hiro or Hiru later on after you beat him up enough times. Speaking of reoccurring, that didn't take long. I believe this by accident. Now we've triggered what would be the second fight there. My bad, Ricky. Didn't mean to do that. Wait, that was actually one of their guys. Never mind. I meant to do that then. And another thing about this section has a hidden item shop hidden under this bridge here. If you wouldn't find unless you already know what to look for. Let's see what items we got here. And oh, you are screwed, game. Yeah, that set of sunglasses is one of the hidden items I wanted. It's kind of a master glasses, or I've also referred to as the master belt, and a hyper guard, which is a pretty useful tech here. And what the master glasses or master belt does is anytime you beat a boss, and if they have a technique you don't, you learn it automatically. It's considered pretty much an equipable item, but it's one of those items you actually want to have at all times here. Let's equip it to Ricky so he'll be learning techniques as I do as we go through the game. And the next boss that has a unique special skill or technique that I don't have, I'll be able to pick it up by beating them up, and as soon as they're done, I have it. And that's going to make part of this game a lot easier and give me certain techniques for free that I would normally have to pay for, and there are some techniques you have to have this item in order to actually get, which I'll try to point those out as the game goes on. Realistically, part of the reason you want to build up cash in order to pick up that item is if you pick it up really early in the game, kind of like what we've done here, you can basically get just about all the techniques except maybe one that, aside from using a cheat item that you have to kind of learn the code for later, that there's only one technique that's actually impossible to pick up in-game under normal circumstances, as far as I know about anyway. Anywho, now that we have the glasses both on Kuno and Ricky, let's see if Hiro had a technique that I didn't know about that could actually be pretty useful. Just have to finish getting through the rest of these gang members, and even with no stamina left and actually pretty low vitality, most of the regular gang members at this level are still pretty easy to get through, and thankfully all of them seem to be allergic to giant stoning. Probably one of the few frustrating areas or parts of this is that I had to run into them in this area where there's all of the traction issues here. And no, Ricky, stop tossing my rock away. I have to beat them up with the rock. It's really funny that way, and it does a lot more damage than most of my non-technique related moves. Also, this also kind of shows up another thing, which is something I kind of hate with the way this setup works with the helper here, being that your helper can effectively chase your opponents off screen where they can hang out for a while, and that means that any coins that they happen to have when they're off screen I can't touch, and as long as they keep up there I can't attack them directly. If I go too far off there, because I'm the player character, you'll consider it as a scroll off into the next area. Okay, my time. These are all doing piddly damage. Ricky, your throw was not that good. How did you toss him that far? What's going on there? Alright, I think at this point there's got to only be maybe like 1 or 2 gang members left. We have to be almost done with this particular batch. That panning animation is just another example. What you didn't see there is that enemy was probably running into that wall there right beside the ramp this whole time and hurting itself for no good reason. This is something you're going to be seeing a lot of through this particular playthrough. I should just warn you. The AI is really stupid at times. If you can help it, there are certain cases, or if you can help it, really, you really want to play with an actual second player that's intelligent, so you'll have one less person doing stupid things as the game goes on. It's already bad enough that even under this setting, your partner and you can still hurt each other because of certain throw-based techniques, along with just general tossed weapons. You happen to have that set up there. And okay, let's see at this point. Let's see, yeah, Hero will be. Here's his rematch there. So let's quickly beat him up there. Ricky, you keep him busy while I get this big rock to beat him to death with. That is not the kind of busy I had in mind. Ricky, don't fly across the screen. I'm not sure what really causes that here, since there's no character that should have a throw power that's that large in order to send anyone flying like that. And maybe they're just doing an instant run or something like that. Alright, after a severe beating, Hero accepts you as the boss now. You take his money, and we proceed to the next phase, which is to apparently fight off another gang. This running into gangs like this, one beside the other, is going to make this game a lot faster, which is actually pretty okay with me, because honestly, what adds the most time to a playthrough of Downtown Special is just navigating the asinine map in order to find the next gang where they're going. Because I haven't shown it here yet because we haven't spent too much time on the map screen, but the gangs can also move where they're going at all times. They hang around a certain area for I'm not sure what kind of set period, but then they'll start rotating to another region until you eventually run into them and beat them up enough. At least on the bright side, aside from the light blue gang, teal gang, whatever you want color want to say, aka the frat boys. Once you defeat one of the story-related gangs, they tend to disappear pretty well. It's actually pretty important in order to use the built-in game map in order to figure out exactly where you need to go there. Hopefully there's nothing too hard coming up because Ricky is down, and in this case there's no automatic replacement that's going to spawn in order to take his spot, so let's continue beating up some more gang members, finish this gang off, and then move on to the next screen in order to respawn Ricky. Thankfully, while the lock kick doesn't do too much damage right now, the tornado technique is actually pretty good at this level. As long as you can aim your jumps low enough, you can actually even hit them with that technique off the ground. Let's try it again. There we go. Admittedly, there's only so much you can say about how many ways you can beat up a gang here, so just to give you an idea why I selected Downtown Special in order to kind of work as the game for this current set is, as you might have noticed, I brought up on Twitter once or twice certain Kickstarter projects that are going on as of late, including River City Ransom Underground, which is very much being written up as a direct sequel to... Oh wait, that wrong direction. The gang leader's the other way around. RCR Underground is being written as a sequel to... Wait, 1 second. Okay, I think this is one of the equivalent would be as one of the zombies from RCR. Okay, sorry, back to that tangent again. Being RCR Underground written as a sequel to the RCR storyline itself, rather than the Kunio-Kun series. And of course, due to the region, I recall RCR itself more than any direct Kunio-Kun games. So wanting to play something like that in RCR Underground is obviously not going to be available for quite some time. Let's go with one of the more complex Kunio-Kun games in order to go along there. And finally, we have the hidden shop I was originally looking for. Let's pick up some stuff. Okay. Map cursor. This will make the game a lot faster. Alright, next one I get is one piece of uniform that not only boosts stamina, but also makes it so that you'll automatically regain stuff or regain stamina over time. Double effect literally boosts the effectiveness of any clothing stats that let up. Let me check. Did I get double up? Yeah, double up makes it so that you not only gain levels faster, because instead of having to beat up 10 gang members, you only have to beat up 5 in between levels. It also boosts the actual amount of points you get for each level up. Alright, let's give double effect over to Ricky, as well as one of the magic clothing effects there. Okay. Use a double effect on its own here stuff. Okay. In a second, use double effect myself. Ricky, have a shirt here. And now with map cursor, we can have a bit more fun here. Let's get a double up for Ricky as well, just so he levels up a lot faster too. And basically with map cursor, now we can actually move from area to area on a more specific fashion using the map itself, which will make things a lot faster. Let me just give Ricky a double up here so he can level up a little faster as well. And now we got what we need in order to make this a more smooth transition. Let's start by, let's see, do I want to change the growth rate a bit? Not right now. Everything needs a lot of growth right now. Kick is easily the most boosted stat, but it's still pretty low right now. Once it's boosted up a lot higher, all the kick-related techniques will be doing a lot more damage here, which will become a lot more obvious with the tornado kick as the game goes on. And map cursor is automatically showing its usefulness as we brought ourselves to where our enemies are supposed to be. It's not necessarily a perfect thing in all cases though. Anytime you move to a new area using map cursor, it'll put you to a default entrance area. And that's not always where the enemy is, but it'll bring you close enough that you can usually find them with relative ease. Unfortunately, it's back to this area then with the dirt road, so more friction-related issues for a little bit. And we'll more talk about the RCR underground stuff. One of the last things they mentioned on the Kickstarter campaign is how they actually ended up adding, talking to Million in order to get a Bobo of all people out of there, which I still find hilarious right now, although there is kind of a background behind that. If there wasn't a Bobo, it was in a Bobo lookalike that did show up in the Dodgeball title, and to my understanding there might be at least 1 or 2 entries that actually have a Bobo proper in it, so it kind of makes sense to toss them in there. And one of the last videos that I uploaded to the channel as of late was kind of me goofing off with the concept sprite that was done by Bannon Rubis of the RCR group, Underground group, and I'm just honestly having some fun illustrating there. It uses the general NES palette, which is something I was doing on the Street Fighter 2 NES fan game project anyway, so it's something I'm entirely familiar and comfortable with. So it's really, I'm just having some fun there, and I really like beat 'em up titles, as you probably noticed. I've been playing a few, including some of the stuff that I've already done for Retro Ninja Gaming at this point, so I'm all for another beat 'em up, especially something that's based off a classic franchise that I really liked playing the hell out of earlier on. The other 2 Kickstarters as of late that I've been particularly interested in is one, Mighty Number 9. Admittedly, I don't need to say too much about that. You have Concept, aka a lot of former Capcom employees kind of having a lot of fun there in order to do what basically a modern day version of what the Rockman series could be, which is, it's really nice to see that went above and beyond what everyone was kind of expecting for it. And the other one being Way Forward's effort in order to do an HD Shantae game, being Shantae Half Genie Hero, which admittedly probably because of the timing it wasn't as successful as it could have been if it had a little different timing. But I still believe with the fact they're still doing some PayPal stuff, should be able to get maybe 1 or 2 other goals met of the original campaign, and should be just generally a really good title all along. I remember playing the original one, the original Game Boy Color title, quite a bit. It was really fun platformer there. Although, God help you now if you're trying to get an actual physical copy there. Is imagine this, at one point the fact the game was selling for $100, that was still considered a bargain at that point. I don't want to imagine what it costs now at this point. Hell, something like Wild Guns for the Super Nintendo. I picked up my copy of that game for like $80, and now I'm seeing tangible versions of just the cart for not only like $100, but like 200 in some cases, or just generally obscene prices. You think with this stuff showing up on the virtual console will actually make it easier, or at least depreciate some of the values a bit because it's more available, but it doesn't seem to have put a dent in there. And down goes Kinzu. Thankfully, with an extra helper, the bosses go down quite a bit there. Also, the stamina boost really helps off. And let's see. Alright, now let's take the opportunity in order to just kind of refill stamina a bit. Try to find a vitality helper, and just maybe we can find something to get Ricky back up to health. Right now, he's pretty low at the moment. Alright, so let's see. Anything going on in Bunzo's place? Nothing yet. Just to show off some fact, we have 4 different allies you can select at this point. I believe off the top of my head, the max you can have at any time is 8 that you can select from. There'll be instances coming where people can either come in to join you or leave depending on what events happen as the game goes on. And well, before we trigger the next story event, let's see if we can find any more texts that are worthwhile. No, that's more food. Don't need that right now. If it's not in this part of the town, it's in the next part where there should be some more text for sale. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, anytime that symbol those red houses will come back. Helicopter, no, already got that one, I think. Alright, let's try. In this section, it's admittedly a bit middle out of nowhere, these islands here. But there actually is not one, but 2 different sequence shops in this particular area. The first one is kind of down here, hidden off in the corner there. The second version of Mach Fist, which adds a new finisher, is available here. And let's get that equipped right away. It's actually a pretty useful upgrade for Mach Fist. And let's see, the other one is you have to be at the top. If it's not of this room, wait, no, it should be in this room. You have to be in the absolute top row and run to the end of what realistically should be just more water. Here we go. Now we have Mach Kick number 2, as well as Dagger Special Technique. You can actually earn the Dagger Special Technique later on by beating a certain boss. They'll offer to teach it to you, but you can also get it early through here. So as you can see, they were clearly items, so if you wanted to spend the extra cash... Oh, I forgot to equip some items there. Okay, Warp Shot works as basically if you throw an item, it will automatically find the nearest opponent and hit them with it. Unfortunately, if your partner's closer, it usually hits them too. And the second one is being... I can't remember what the Fumi is something like. I think it might be the Grapple Attack, I think. But basically, a sped up version of that. If I'm thinking the right technique. And now we can go find the next gang there. Let's see. I think I completely forgot in order to get any extra vitality or stamina for Ricky, but he seems to be doing well enough. And there's an example of what happens if you accidentally throw anything towards your own partner there. Even on Mode A, you still damage them. And if you happen to use the weapon instead, it will do a stupid amount of damage, especially if you have your throw up at that point. Also, this is not exactly the most ideal area in order to fight an opponent, just because if you happen to go down on the bridge too far and fall down, that'll be considered entering the another room there. Your partner and the enemies can go down there just fine, but if you go down, it's considered exit, so it'll basically cause the fight to cancel out there. As you can see, Mach Kick number 2 has an extra finisher on there, and it does a little more damage, I think. And it also does knockdown off the top of my head, which just makes it generally more useful than the default version. And really, it's just a matter of just take everyone down and Yep. At some point I got the mock version of the grapple punch there, so that's perfect. That'll be a little helpful along the way. Just a matter of now topping up the rest of this gang while my partner runs around like an idiot waiting for someone to come back on screen. If this is a period piece, it's a good thing they explain this is actually part of a play and not an actual thing, because otherwise I'm wondering, why are there sunglasses in this period? Last I checked, that shouldn't exist. Oh, well, I digress. Kicks him on the ground a bit more punching. Good thing there are no reputation points, otherwise it'd be in the negatives at this point if that was physically possible. Think about it, just to explain, so depending on which of the exits you use up here on the hill will determine exactly what area you'll be going on to next. If you were still running around using the traditional exit instead of using something like map cursor. And I just have to get everything back to the middle of the screen so I can kind of get it so I can actually start attacking people again, because everyone's a little too close to the edges. And if the enemy is a little too far out, they can still hit you fine, but you can't actually damage them. All your attacks will whip. You're too close to the edge. So let's get them back somewhere where everyone can hit everyone equally at this point. At that point, oh yeah, that extra stab, I believe that was the dagger special off the top of my head. And now let's proceed to the next gang member or gang leader here, who I can't recall off the top of my head if it's... Okay, no, he's hitting a lot harder. I think this is the equivalent to Thor off the top of my head from RCR. Or at least the base looks a lot like his off the top of my head. You'd find him kind of hanging around in the warehouse as well. So where are my opponents going? Okay, now they're back. Okay, let's beat the Heisei a little more. Pretty sure he's got to be pretty low at this point. At least he's stalling a lot more than he used to. Okay, did not mean to throw him. There you go, he's done. And more talk about the big boss. The big boss himself is hiding quite a bit. Let's see. Okay, no, we didn't learn anything new here, but it does remind me, I forgot to activate Ricky's technique, so let's get that underway. It might have been where I already had purchased the technique he would have given me, so let's just proceed onward. Oh, they're hiding back in the actual regular part of Sura at this point, so... didn't I already fight the pink gang at this point? I don't remember. Well, thankfully enough, if you really needed to in this particular fight, because it's back in the middle of this actual main area, the town, you could actually duck into one of the various shops in order to buy more techniques, buy some food on the fly, or even use the inn if you really had to and you were getting beat up in order to refill Kuno's health. But thankfully, due to the magic, I think it's the magic robe, is what that item was called. Kuno's health and stamina and vitality are still pretty high. No, Ricky, I don't want you to dash with me on top of you. Back off the stage. What we really need to do is beat up these people who have sunglasses when they really shouldn't have them. And hopefully with Ricky standing there, he won't accidentally start running into an invisible wall at this point. It is something that really happens in the towns a lot. If there is a table or obstacle of any sort, if they get stuck in a doorway, your AI helper, as well as some of the opponents sometimes, will constantly start running into doorways and walls. If there's something they can run into, they will run into it. And no sooner did I say that started happening there. Let's just... Ricky, you're a good man, but you're an idiot. What are you doing? Stop it. Stop it. God damn you, Ricky. Okay, let's finish off the rest of the gang myself. Okay, Gonzo was supposed to say something there, but I guess it got cut off because of Ricky's stupidity or something. So, let's go back and finish beating him up in order to make the story go along. Fortunately, he might have had a small stat boost, but nothing big. So, nope, nothing at all, really. It was just a matter of beating up in order to get him, or get the story going along there. Okay, now that we're here, actually, let's get... Oh. You know, I screwed, actually. We don't need to get Ricky anything extra just yet. Let's see what our stats are. We do just a quick momentary pause. Actually, now I think I'll make that a slightly longer pause. Ladies and gentlemen, we're actually going to take a break in the action, and I'll catch you next time on part 2 of this game.